Welcome everyone to the Multichain Nation powered by Axelar. I'm happy to have 4 guests with me today, all using Axelar and their engines to power their apps and platforms. To get started, I definitely want to know a little bit about each of your projects, what you're doing, how you're using Axelar, and discuss about their ITS service and how it's working for you. So Stoic, let's start with you, Stephen.
Hey everyone, so I'm Steven from RMRK. We have the most advanced NFTs in the world. So these are modular NFTs. We have a few ERCs, and basically we are taking NFTs to the like limits of what you can do with them. So if you have NFTs which can have multiple assets, or can be nested into each other or equipped into each other, or remoted on, and a few other very interesting things that can be combined together to push forward the what you can do with NFTs. And it's all forward compatible and fully decentralized. Everything is on chain. And we use Axelar because we are multi-chain, or our platforms are on 6, 7 blockchains, and we keep adding new ones. And we have our own tokens, so we have deployed it using Axelar ITS, so people can use it in the different blockchains.
Nice. And yeah, it's the fun part about Axelar is how you can just work with different blockchains without even having to worry about it. Marcus, let us know how ITS is benefiting you.
Yeah, sure. I'm a contributor at Klima DAO, where we're using blockchain technology to scale climate action. In particular, we're working in the verified carbon credit market, where the infrastructure is quite antiquated, mostly email, phone call, PDF, and wire transfer to settle transactions. And so Web3 infrastructure, blockchains, and DeFi give us an opportunity to facilitate instant settlement, real-time transparency, and much broader market access for these important environmental commodities. And ITS in particular has been a huge benefit because when we first launched Klima DAO in late 2021, there weren't a whole lot of options for low transaction fee, fast settlement time, Ethereum aligned blockchains. It was basically Ethereum L1 or a couple of L2s like Polygon POS. And so we ended up going on Polygon POS. And now we want to expand to more blockchains and bring these environmental commodities to other communities. And Axelar is a really easy way for us to do that.
Yeah, I've heard a few projects starting off on Polygon, and then thanks to Axar, were able to broaden their horizon. So it's awesome that you keep that agnostic as possible just to kind of serve the people rather than serving yourselves or serving whatever is easiest for you. Jake, let's hear a bit about you and Axlar and what they're doing with ITS.
Well, I guess Axelar is the creators of ITS. I'm on the growth team for the Axelar Foundation. So essentially, we've been helping bring ITS to market. And as you can probably see and tell so far from just this conversation, there's just so many use cases kind of across the board, right? Most projects have at least one token. A lot of projects right now are trying to break into different ecosystems and have kind of various use cases for bridging their tokens to various chains. So I think that ITS is it's just a very easy solution for an existing problem in the market. And I think our team has done a great job of making it pretty easy to use, and then leveraging things like Squid to help with the distribution.
Yeah, and that's the thing too. It's with so many different projects having their own tokens and so many different values and trying to transfer between different chains, it's hard to just lose value in the transfer. And I think ITS is hugely beneficial in that purpose, where you can have your own little economic value within your project and then be able to transfer it easily without losing half of it on the way.
Yeah, it's really nice not having kind of any slippage on these transactions, just paying gas.
Yep. Thank you. And Karmel, let's hear what you're working on. And
Awesome. Hi, everyone. My name is Karmel, and I do product at Kava. For you guys that are not familiar with Kava, it's a chain that is built on Cosmos, but also compatible with the EVM. So we have the speed of Cosmos and also the power and developer power of EVM, the Ethereum side. And while we are the leader, and we've been the leader in the Cosmos side, we have been expanding and evolving our EVM capabilities with that comes the idea of how this cross communication can happen seamlessly for our developers and our users, right? Where transferring different assets that are born on one side and want to go on the other side, etc. And generally, we believe that the power lies in the different protocols that are being built and products that are being built. So in order for them to be successful, they need the infrastructure to enable this cross collaboration between different chains. Because we are living in two different chains, for example. And we've used Axelar many times, and most recently with the Binance Bridge, which I'll talk about more later. But we were very excited about this initiative. We're very excited about the things that Axelar has been pushing the innovation in. So I'm thankful to be here.
Yeah, it's so nice to have a different entity like take care of all that legwork for you, because cross communication is not easy, especially with like nowadays how we have so many different blockchains and so many people on each blockchain and such a big group asking for your project to work with them or work over there. And it's like I can't build everything, but thankfully we have someone building a big core infrastructure for us to be able to do that.
100%. Yep.
Now we're all using some type of ITS service for our platforms, and this interchain token service. I definitely want to know about your experiences and using ITS and like how it has directly impacted your project in terms of like interoperability, efficiency, and overall functionality. Steven, let's hear it from you.
So I can talk mostly from the development side, I think, because like I had to dig into the smart contracts really, because when we launched our token, we were like really on a time limit where we needed to launch into a new blockchain, but we didn't have the token there, or we did have it in some blockchain, but then due to the multi-chain fell down, we weren't able to move it anymore. So this was also something very important in that we liked a lot about Axelar, is that even though you can deploy your own token and deploy in other chains from ITS, we actually did it all more manual, and this is all something which I think is awesome you allow. So we actually like implemented the interfaces for the interchain tokens, and we deploy the tokens ourselves into every network we want, and like even in a predictable address, so it's the same everywhere. And then we just registered it, and that's it. It all works. So I think it's pretty flexible. I think I've deployed already 3 different tokens using Axelar among different blockchains, and so far it's great. And looking at the code, really, it's really nice to go through it. It's pretty well organized and easy to follow. So yeah, I've enjoyed it really, and I'm actually looking forward to use it more, because I know you can not only use ERC20s, but like you have this data parameter which is kind of arbitrary you can pass. So I'm looking forward to spend some time doing cross-chain RMRK NFTs with Axelar too. But I guess we can talk about that later.
Well, yeah, and I guess another question for you is, as a developer, do you find it convenient and easy to use Axelar's documentation?
Yeah, at first I had a lot of flags. Like I had a lot of concerns because like most documentation was for the ready to use cases, like where you would do most things in the UI, but we needed to customize a lot. So when we did it the first time, it wasn't that good. But after that, after it was released and everything, because I think we launched the first time it was on beta maybe. After that, it got way better, and now it's way simpler to follow and do your custom stuff with Axelar.
That's awesome. That's what you want to see too, is like not everything is perfect from the beginning, but Axelar has definitely proven that they're innovating and growing and hearing from their community to bring the best constantly. So that's super awesome for developers to see that and live in it.
Yeah, and we have had an open channel with you guys also, which where you have always been available to answer our questions. So very good.
Awesome. Marcus, let us know how your experience is with ITS and how it affected your project.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I would say it was pretty smooth. That was my biggest surprise. We've been fielding inquiries for pretty much since we launched about cross-chain solutions, other chains that wanted us to deploy, and we've always been held back by this technical concern. We're not a very big technical team. We have a handful of engineers, And we didn't want to take on the technical burden of deploying an interchain service that we would have to maintain ourselves. So we spoke with several cross-chain interoperability solutions, and they were all pretty, I used to call them science fair projects. They were kind of experimental. You had to do a lot of fiddling with parameters and setting things up yourself. And so when ITS started being advertised in production, we were like, oh, this is actually simple to deploy, and it solves a specific problem we're having, which is we want to be able to bring our existing token, Klima, which had been live on Polygon for several years already, to another chain or many other chains, so that those users can access our ecosystem, retire carbon credits, and participate in this market. And so ITS was sort of our first step using Axelar just to bring the Klima token to other chains. And now we're really excited about the opportunity to combine ITS with some of the cross-chain messaging functionality to do things like a user acquires the Klima token on X chain, and they want to retire a carbon credit that happens to be on Polygon or happens to be on Celo. And without having to go and bridge the Klima token back themselves and initiate the retirement on the chain where the credit lives, they can use a cross-chain interface where they just connect their wallet on whatever chain they happen to have assets on, and then issue the retirement, which might invoke a smart contract function call on a different chain in a seamless way without having to deal with bridging or really worry about any of the technical complexity. And really the vision that we have is that eventually the users won't know which blockchain or won't care which blockchain the asset they're interacting with happens to be on. They'll just initiate a function call to do what they want to do, and then Axelar and similar interoperability solutions will route that order, result in the retirement certificate being issued, and then the user will get back a transaction hash on their home chain that links to whatever activity took place on a different chain.
Nice. And let's say once you found out, okay, I want to activate on a certain chain, how long does it take for you to just switch that on, make it happen?
Once we did the first ITS deployment, it's literally clicking a button in the admin interface.
That's quick.
It's really nice.
That's quick. That's exactly what you need, because as soon as you get that demand, it's like, all right, we're here to serve. We're here to help out. That's awesome.
Yep.
Jake, let us know about, your experiences using ITS and how it's impacted you.
I guess for me, it's mostly watching it, how it's impacting others. I definitely would. I've like gone and deployed my own tokens, and I will say, like, from, I'm not a developer. I've never coded anything. And it's definitely something that, like, a business person or some, just somebody that doesn't necessarily like actually know how to code can go in and use, which I think is really interesting. A little bit scary, honestly, in the crypto space, just because it makes it so easy to just spin up a token and go deploy it on so many different chains. I think the ease of use is part of the reason why we've seen like a really huge uptick in kind of meme coin use cases. I guess like 90% of new tokens that are getting created right now are meme coins, just generally. But I would say, like, ease of use and just, again, I think we've kind of like mentioned this a little bit, but it's just a problem that most people are solving. I think they're always like pleasantly surprised at how easy it is to just go in the portal and either create a new token or configure your existing tokens and connect them with the contract.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of your day-to-day is just finding amazing use cases for people to use Axelar and using ITS, and just trying to like, no, you should, this is like the best product for you. You should get onto it, using it. And like, especially if you're not even speaking with developers, you can at least use the right language to make them understand that this can make their life a lot easier. So that's pretty intense day to day. I feel like it's still needed in the crypto space, not just being a developer, but being someone who understands what a real use case could be used for.
Yeah, for sure.
Karmel, let's hear it from you. I want to know what ITS is, how it's benefiting you.
Yeah. So on a chain level, we always see the siloed ecosystems working on their own, developing on their own, and they're so isolated, right? And that presents us with a lot of challenges to try to work across them. And these challenges are expensive and not efficient for us to solve for, right? Like to have a dedicated team or someone to solve for a cross-chain collaboration or sending assets between them, etc. And most recently, for example, we've had a custom solution for some of our assets on our platform that was using BEP3 Binance's bridge, right? And BTCD, XRPB, for example, and these are some of the popular assets. And we were in a little bit of a pickle from a product perspective. Binance announced that they're sunsetting this bridge and this way of communication, which impacts us. But if we sit down and say, oh, we're going to develop another custom way to do it, or we're going to do something else and integrate in a custom way with this chain or that chain, we realize that's very expensive. And then we saw that you guys have this beautiful seamless solution, which especially with the multi-chain squid router, that was fantastic, and it was very easy for us to integrate. Definitely saved us a lot of effort and energy and a lot of panic from a product perspective to have these assets available for users to send across and not have interrupted services due to sunsetting of a custom solution that is built to solve for these communication collaboration issues that chains experience, right? So in terms of like efficiency, this was a fantastic solution, and it definitely optimized the process for our team and our users generally. So I was very, very happy to have that.
Yeah, especially coming from a product standpoint, what goes on through your mind when looking at different services and weighting their services and their values, and how do you make that decision to say, I mean, you gave a little intro, but like how you make the decision to say Axelar is definitely the way to go versus, oh, are we going to, is this too risky? Is this, how do we test for this? And like, what is your thought process and your experience doing that?
One is we look for the solution that's the best user experience, right? Like we want to offer users a way, and also developers, right? A way to interact with our chain in the best way possible, right? Remove any obstacles. And then second, security, making sure that the services are providing reliable and innovative, right? And you guys check the boxes in all of them. And that was a very easy decision for us to make. And it was very fast. Like the process of getting this done was, in a blockchain space, usually things take longer. Oh, you need a chain upgrade, or you need this or that. But no, this was a beautiful process. We were very, very pleased with that.
Yeah, especially being in the blockchain industry, it's just, time is of the essence. It's 24/7. It's not stopping. Wherever you are in the world, there's work to do.
Correct.
It's fun, but it's also just like insane how much you have to do and how much is on your mind.
Right.
Thank you. And one of the final questions is like looking towards the future. I mean, looking ahead, like how do you envision the evolution of like interchain token services, ITS, and what impact do you believe this technology will have on the blockchain landscape and your project specifically? Steven, let us know what the future looks like for you.
Well, for me, the answer is clear. We have, as I mentioned earlier, very advanced NFTs. So there are already some solutions which sell cross-chain NFTs, but these are the regular NFTs which only have like an owner and some token URI associated with it. So that's too basic for us. Each of our NFTs can have multiple assets and can have children and can have an equipped estate and can have some attributes. So there's a lot of information going on there, which if we go to these existing services, it's just won't work for us. It will send 10% of the information we actually have in the NFT. But since with ITS, you can send custom data and execute some custom contract on the other side. This is something I've been dreaming on for the past months. It's just that I haven't had the time, nor personal, nor in the company to spend some time on it. But I'm really looking forward to implement a way to do cross-chain NFTs on RMRK, where I would somehow pack all this information I have for an NFT, and on the other side, I can produce the same output with all the configuration. And since it gives me so much flexibility, plus all the, like, I know I can rely on it also. I think it's just perfect, the perfect way to implement this use case.
You bring up an interesting point, is when you make an NFT with all those attributes on one chain, how do you make it translate to other chains? And it sounds like Axelar is handling that pretty well for you.
Yeah, ideally that's what I expect to do. Like I haven't figured it out all yet, but I just have a good feeling, and because I have looked at the code, that it the tools are there. I may need to, I don't know, probably I need to deploy a mirror contract on each chain I want as a destination. But then, like all the minting and configuring all the assets and children and everything, it will be triggered by Axelar on the other chain. So this is pretty important for NFTs because, like for instance, many collections they launch on Ethereum because there's mostly more liquidity there, so they have more chances of high volume and good prices. But then you don't want to play a game, for instance, in Ethereum. You will be bankrupt, right?
Yeah.
So there are some hacks that people do, like freezing ownership in one chain and reflecting it like manually on the other every some hours, so that people on the can play on the cheaper chain. But here it's perfect because you can, like, if you want to use your NFT for a game or for whatever it's meant to be, you can have it on the cheap chain, use it, equip it, do anything you want there. And if you want to trade it, then you would transfer it to the Ethereum or some chain with high liquidity and sell it there. So it gives you the best of both worlds without some centralized, like manual thing where a team has to be running a script to do this sync. So yeah, I think it's perfect.
That's awesome. Yeah, having access to liquidity is a big issue. So, especially with your NFTs, you don't know at what point that the chain it's living on might just go down. um, thank you, Marcus. Let us know what your outlook on the future is.
Yeah, I definitely echo that point around liquidity in the carbon markets and other environmental commodities. We're dealing with things that are commodities, right? They're sort of fundamentally limited in supply. You can't just mint more of them arbitrarily. And so if you end up in a fragmented ecosystem where 10% of the credits are over on this chain and 30% are over there, it limits the amount of liquidity that any one individual can access if they are stuck only buying assets on their local chain. And so Axelar unlocks this opportunity to create a truly seamless and interoperable carbon market and markets for other environmental commodities where the user doesn't need to necessarily worry about where the deepest liquidity is. And in fact, we can concentrate liquidity into a cross-chain liquidity pool using some of the more advanced cross-chain interoperability solutions that are coming down the pipe. And that will really address this issue of having to fragment the market in order to serve different communities. We can instead unify the market around liquidity pools that are accessible from any chain. And Axelar is a tool to allow us to do that. The other thing I wanted to hone in on is the user experience. So one of our partner organizations, CarbonMark, is using account abstraction and cross-chain interoperability solutions to build basically a Web 2 e-commerce platform that under the hood is settling its transactions on public blockchains. But for the user, they go on, they log in with their email, and they connect their bank account or their credit card, and they pay just like they would on Amazon or any other e-commerce platform. But they can have the assurances of transparency and interoperability that blockchain provides without having to learn about a whole new technology stack.
Yeah, and that's a thing that you just maybe think about is like carbon credits. And say if I do have a bunch of carbon credits, one of my first questions is, can I sell it? What do I do with it? Is it liquid? And being able to tell people that no, you have a place to, move your assets over or sell your assets if you need to, without having to worry about being on the right chain or what or paying high fees. That's super useful.
And in the off-chain market that we're trying to solve these problems for, fragmentation is already a huge issue. So the goal would be to not reproduce that fragmentation on chain, but to use some of the more advanced technologies that Web3 unlocks to solve that fragmentation issue.
Thank you. And yeah, I'm really excited for that too, because we need to get that issue of fragmentation really like honed down on, because it's pretty apparent how bad it is now. Jake, you're deep into Axelar and what they're building, and you probably have a roadmap in your head. I definitely want to know what your future outlook is on ITS and I guess in Axelar in general of more interoperability.
Sure. So I think for ITS, like the goal is really to eventually have a world where it doesn't really, like, you can just move, you can have your tokens on any chain and it doesn't matter, right? Like it's just more seamless to move a token from chain to chain, and like enable users to stop thinking about like bridging back and forth, you know, what they need from a gas perspective, all that good stuff, right? So as tokens launch moving forward, just making them compatible like across the entire blockchain ecosystem. And I think that kind of rolls into that whole like account abstraction. Marcus was mentioning a little bit, but like obviously that's a huge buzzword today. And I think like having this seamless, like you need to have the good UIs like Squid, right? Because it's abstracting a lot of that complexity away from the user when you do have to do some of the bridging and the swapping. But enabling these tokens to just move back and forth seamlessly will be a key part in that. So that's where I think we're like really heading. And then, you know, just making it flexible enough to be able to work with like any use case, right? Whether that's connecting existing tokens, you know, yield bearing tokens, who knows, and everything that comes in the future. I mean, what am I most excited about for like what we're doing in the near term? I'd probably say is like connecting Solana and like Sui and some of the bigger non-EVM ecosystems. And specifically for ITS, like there are so many tokens coming on Solana right now. I don't know how many are going to be there a year from now, but I think that's like a huge opportunity for us. So I'm really excited about that.
Yeah, and connecting to Solana is going to be definitely a very interesting new phase for Axelar, and I think it's going to bring a lot of. It's going to bring a lot. I don't know what's going to bring a lot of, but it's going to bring a lot, especially within Ethereum and the EVMs space. I guess a quick question, I guess, for our viewers, like maybe a small explanation of differences between ITS and cross-chain communications, and then account abstraction. A brief, like 30 seconds, just to kind of differentiate between them.
So ITS account abstraction and just
Cross-chain.
cross-chain.
Yeah.
So I'd say like when we think about cross-chain generally, right, we have general message passing protocol, which allows you to send any function like read, write, execute, query, like do whatever you want from chain to chain, right? And as that message gets passed from one chain to another, our permissionless decentralized validator set approves that going from location to location. So that is kind of like the general technology that enables all of this, right? Think of it just as like in Web 2 as like a MuleSoft or just like a very flexible like API between disparate systems. And then account abstraction, I think, is one of those things that if you ask 5 people, you'll probably get 5 different answers. To me, I think that it's kind of just taking away a lot of that complexity and like creating tooling that helps take that complexity away, because just using blockchain, as we know, is hard. I think and like a lot of that is just like automating things that need to be fixed right now, right? That make that seamless. And then ITS is essentially something built on the Axelar network to enable you to have tokens live natively across multiple different blockchains, all with the same contract address if you mint a new one, or connect tokens that exist today and then allow them to be bridged and maintain that like one-to-one parity that you need. And I think really like some of the bigger differentiators compared to other tools on the market really is like number one, security. Just because, you know, we have the BattleTech security mechanism of proof of stake, and then the whole like user experience and ease of use to go in there. Like you don't need to be able to code in certain scenarios, you do. But I think from a user experience perspective, it's significantly different than other players on the market today.
Definitely. Thank you. Yeah, we have so many people just here using it, and I know of a huge ecosystem of projects using ITS. So we're definitely looking forward to everything that's coming out soon. Karmel, let us know what your future outlook is and how you're excited for what's happening.
From our perspective, we've been focused on having native assets integrated within our ecosystem. So native USDT and native wrap BTC, these are the largest assets in the world, right? Now that we have them, we want to be the gateway. For example, Tether chose us to be the gateway to the Cosmos side. And then we have wrap BTC now. How can we offer them and have this major liquidity be available for users? Requires services like ITS, right? How do we make sure that in that user experience, users are not really bogged down by, oh, I'm going from this chain to this chain and I'm going to have to do this and gas and what token am I paying gas with, all that good stuff, right? So this solves for that immediate step that we have. With it aligns beautifully with our strategy there with the native issuance of these tokens, which is a big deal, right? And then the next step is generally, how do we attract more users into blockchain, right? Because now, like we have the dedicated loyal users for each chain, and how do we attract newer comers on it? And with services like the usability of Squid Router, I think it removes the ambiguity. It removes the black box. We don't need to know the details behind the scenes sometimes, right? They don't need to have so much information overload of all of the things that are happening in order for them to transfer some native assets, right? So that to us signals that this will enable a broader adoption into the ecosystem. So not just Kava generally. So we're excited about that. So.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, adoption and getting new people onto blockchain has been still a battle today. And not only just new people, but also people from different chains trying to use Solana or trying to use Ethereum, or even people from Bitcoin trying to use Ethereum. It's a battle that never ends. And the biggest question is like, how do I move over my assets? And yeah, with Kava, I guess it makes it possible using Axelar and using Squid and
Correct.
giving people the opportunity to experiment without paying a huge fee, at least. I mean, biggest advice I always give to newcomers is, buy some Ethereum, get your feet wet, do some transactions, and then you're going to learn and get really into that rabbit hole of how it all works. And without paying hundreds of dollars in gas fees, at least you can do a lot more cheaper, a lot more fun.
Right. I agree. Yeah.
Thank you, Karmel. And thank you, everyone, for joining me today and joining us and listening to the Multichain Nation podcast powered by Axelar. It was great seeing you all, and I'm excited for what the future holds.